Greetings. I'm Michael Quinn Patton, going to talk about transformation, what it is, why it matters, how to do it, how to evaluate it. We know that the earth is in trouble. We're polluting it, we're warming it, we have a lot of people in the world now with limited resources to support all of those people. The future sustainability of humanity is in question, and creating a world where people are equitable and thriving is the challenge for all of us and all of humanity. As we deal with things like the global pandemic, we realize how interconnected the world is, and the need, as the pandemic and climate emergency and food emergencies have all made clear, we need transformation in all of those arenas. Health systems transformation, social justice system transformations, climate system transformations, economic system transformations, food systems transformations, social media and information transformations to reduce misinformation. And these complex system interconnections all involve major significant change. The evolution of evaluation is coming to appreciate that. Evaluation began 50 years ago, focused on simply measuring whether goals were attained. And then we got into logic models, simply a sequence of steps to achieve those goals. And that moved from logic models to theory of change, where we looked at the causal mechanisms that moved from implementation to outcomes. But theory of change is at the project level, at the program level, a discrete closed system of steps you take to achieve SMART goals. When we're talking about transformation, we're dealing with systems, a very different challenge. Transforming systems requires multiple theories of change, multiple stakeholders, each acting in their own arena, but aligning and synthesizing to create critical mass and tipping points. How does that happen? Well, we have an example that I'm going to share with you that came out of the United Nations Food Systems Summit in 2021 in November. Building up to the summit, there were a number of activities that took place, one of which were independent dialogues held around the world to convene people to discuss food systems transformation, ways of engaging with food, perspectives of different people, including those not often heard, women, indigenous peoples, youth, smallholder farmers, organized by 4SD out of Switzerland. The independent dialogues allowed people to come together and converse about food systems. We were commissioned through the Blue Marble Evaluation Network to analyze and synthesize those results. There have been over 1,000 independent dialogues, and the reports on which those dialogues were based in our analysis were what we analyzed to create, as it turned out, a theory of transformation. And I'm going to take you through how that synthesis process emerged into a theory of transformation and the implications of such a theory. The Food Systems Dialogue rendered a number of reports, which you can find on the United Nations Food Systems Dialogue portal. In the second report we did in July of 2021, with the Blue Marble Evaluation Network, we prepared for the pre-summit meeting in Rome, July 26 to 28 in 2021, a report that identified the themes that came out of the first 103 dialogues. These dialogues typically last an hour and a half. The first report I'm sharing with you here analyzed data from more than 10,000 participants, roughly equal on gender, and with a very wide divergence of ages participating. And we identified out of that first set of dialogues 10 themes that were appearing across dialogues. The importance of transformation to be equitable and sustainable. Food systems to be equitable and sustainable. A second major theme was thinking in systems. A third one was adapting solutions to diverse local contexts. A fourth theme was valuing diversity and engaging inclusively. A fifth theme was ensuring equity. A sixth theme was shifting perspectives and changing mindsets. Innovation and integrate what is already working into innovations. Facilitating conflict resolutions and negotiating trade-offs as a part of transformation. Mobilizing engaged and accountable actors to work collaboratively. Being open and transparent in what goes on. Connecting and weaving solutions together for transformation. In the third report, where we had by then 850 independent dialogues registered, and you see here the list of topics that the independent dialogues engaged in: sustainability, youth, farmers, nutrition, food systems, resiliency, women and gender, climate change, transformation itself, food security, innovation, food for all, agriculture, inclusivity, financing, health, indigenous systems. As we looked at that great diversity of different kind of themes and possibilities, we began to put together some major themes that came out of a greater number of dialogues. And those greater themes allowed us to think about from the larger number of dialogues. 443 dialogue reports that we had through July were representing some 40,000 people. And so the report framing involved synthesizing, organizing, and presenting the dialogue results in answer to 4 questions. What food systems transformation are needed and envisioned? Who should engage in transforming food systems? How should the transformation of food systems be undertaken? And what success factors are keys to transformative results? We had a major coding system with a team based in South Africa to code these dialogues and allow us to interpret what themes emerge. And that's what I'm going to share with you. First, the themes themselves, and then how we put those together into a theory of transformation. Guidance on what is needed and envisioned. First was the emphasis on transformation. Transformation means major, significant, deep, and broad changes beyond piecemeal reforms, incremental change, or narrowly focused projects and programs. Authentic, genuine transformation. The second was to ensure resilient sustainability, meaning humanity and nature thriving together. Much of the evidence for our broken agricultural and food systems is that industrial agriculture is not proving sustainable. It's depleting resources and environments. It is polluting environments and endangering human health. And so sustainability means humanity and nature thriving together. Making equity a priority. Dialogue participants emphasize contributions to equity as a priority criterion for judging food systems solutions. Then guidance on who should be engaged in transforming food systems. First of all, the dialogues emphasize treat everyone as a stakeholder in food systems. The call is for all hands on deck, for the climate emergency, for social justice issues, for the pandemic, and for food systems. Everyone is affected. Value diversity and engage inclusively. An extension of treating everyone as a stakeholder is valuing diversity and engaging inclusively, which are essential to achieve equity. The primacy of government responsibility and accountability. National governments were most often identified as a primary actor to drive transformation, but they can't do it alone. So engaging collaboratively in partnerships. The dialogues called for transformative partnerships, synergies, and alliances supported by multi-stakeholder platforms and networks, and a need for all stakeholders and sectors to work together with governments toward food systems transformation. the nonprofit sector, the non-governmental sector, universities, businesses, private sector. Again, all institutions called to be on deck. Amplify and empower historically excluded voices. Dialogue spotlighted women, indigenous people, smallholder farmers, and youth as needing and deserving special attention and engagement. Guidance on how food systems transformation should be undertaken. Apply systems thinking. The Food Systems Summit has elevated and focused attention on food systems, not projects, not little programs, but changing and transforming systems. Recognizing complexity. Complexity is recognized as a fundamental Food Systems Summit principle of engagement. Guaranteeing the right to food. The dialogues emphasize conceptualizing food as a right rather than merely a market-based commodity, as to provide a unified and universal declaration framework for food systems transformation, the right to food. Supporting nature-positive solutions. Nature-positive means going beyond reducing damage to food ecosystems and instead making ecosystems thriving and resilient. Nature-positive solutions are a basket of sustainable approaches to agricultural production and human consumption of food, agroecology, regenerative agriculture, and organic farming, among other related approaches. Guidance on how transforming food systems can be undertaken. Continue. Contextualize and localize. Dialogue participants consistently emphasize localized food systems, that different solutions will be needed for different contexts through place-based innovation and adaptation. One size doesn't fit all. You can't have top-down best practices. It's going to be bottom-up, contextualized application of more general knowledge. Educate about food systems transformation. Shift perspectives, revise narratives, and change mindsets about the capacity to feed the entire world and about how to do so sustainably and equitably. As mentioned earlier, innovate and integrate what is already working. Change what needs to be changed, innovate and adapt, but also identify, keep, and build on what is working. And now, success factors that are key to transformative results identified in the dialogues. Generate financial resources sufficient to accelerate transformation. Massive investments will be needed to transform food systems. Align and integrate coalitions and solutions. A dialogue principle of engagement is to complement the work of others. Transformation occurs as multiple actors, each operating in their own arena, their own areas of responsibility, at different levels, begin to converge around common solutions. Some working on regulatory issues, some working on incentives, some working on ecosystems and practices, some working on education, some working on investments, some working on incentives. That these different levels of engagement come together and begin to align and integrate to create tipping points and critical mass. Ensure openness and transparency. Transparency is a major and consistent concern across dialogues that applies to all aspects of food systems transformation, decision-making, and implementation. Act with urgency. Acting with urgency was a major dialogue principle of engagement embraced by dialogue participants. More success factors. Facilitate conflict resolution and negotiate trade-offs. Spotlighting the need for conflict resolution and trade-offs came with recognition that the urgency of food systems transformation means that disagreements must not become bottlenecks that stop the transition to more sustainable and equitable systems. We need people who can help with facilitation. People are trained to facilitate and negotiate food systems transformation. Build global transformation momentum across systems. Dialogues were occurring during the coronavirus pandemic, and increased evidence of the climate emergency with severe weather episodes, fires, droughts, and floods. Dialogue participants often observed that the potential for food systems transformation was inevitably and intrinsically tied to transformation of climate and health systems. Finally, learn and adapt through ongoing evaluation. monitoring and evaluation came up often as a cross-cutting theme regardless of the particular issue being discussed. Traditional evaluation approaches were advocated as well as the need for innovations. Indeed, part of what we've learned is that to evaluate transformation, we have to transform evaluation. To make it more systems-oriented, to make it more transformation-oriented, evaluation of projects and programs, which evaluators have gotten very good at, won't be sufficient to evaluate transformation. So evaluation itself has to be transformed to be appropriate to deal with complex systems. So how do we get from this list of themes to a theory of transformation? Well, it begins by seeing the interconnections among themes. Often these kinds of analyses simply come up with lists, and many of them would stop by listing the 22 discrete themes. And there's a lot there. But the next step is to see their interconnections, which involves systems thinking. The 22 guiding themes are not a mere checklist of themes to address one by one. Dialogue participants, in fact, cautioned that isolated and siloed solutions would not achieve transformational impacts. No single solutions are likely to be sufficiently powerful to reach the critical mass that can tip systems into new, more equitable and sustainable trajectories. Thus, solutions need to be examined for their cumulative, interactive, interdependent interconnections that, implemented together in mutually reinforcing momentum, can transform food systems. Thus, a theory of transformation involves multiple theories of change with multiple actors in multiple arenas beginning to converge and synthesize and align their efforts to build momentum. And that's how we get to a theory of transformation, made up of the convergence and overlapping synergies of different trajectories that become a theory of transformation beyond a theory of change. And for the food systems dialogues, that took this form. We began with a set of the themes related to mobilizing and engaging, looked at conceptualizing and implementing solutions that come out of that mobilizing and engaging. They lead to enabling results, the discrete, smaller results that cumulatively and in alignment with other results build trajectory and momentum that lead to food systems impact. So let's look at each of these parts of the theory of transformation, including the cross-cutting success factors, which are ensuring openness and transparency, acting with urgency, and facilitating conflict resolution and negotiating trade-offs. So the guiding themes in sequence for a theory of transformation: mobilize and engage. That relates to treating everyone as a stakeholder, valuing diversity and engaging inclusively, acknowledging and supporting the primacy of government responsibility and accountability, engaging collaboratively in partnerships, amplifying and empowering historically excluded voices, and generating financial resources sufficient to accelerate transformation. So in a theory of transformation, these are the mobilization and engagement processes that create the initial momentum toward transformation. Then that energy moves toward conceptualizing and implementing solutions by applying systems thinking, recognizing complexity, guaranteeing the right to food, supporting nature-positive solutions, contextualizing and localizing solutions, innovating and integrating what is already working, ensuring sustainability, and making equity a priority. Still with the cross-cutting factors of ensuring openness and transparency, acting with urgency, and facilitating conflict resolution and negotiating trade-offs. We then achieve enabling results out of those separate initiatives to educate about food systems transformation, shifting perspectives, revising narratives, and changing mindsets, learning and adapting through ongoing evaluation, And the key to pulling it all together is aligning and integrating coalitions and solutions. And that leads to the food systems impacts. Transform food systems that are equitable, sustainable, and resilient, and mutually reinforcing momentum built across food, climate, and health systems toward transformational critical mass and tipping points. So you see here how we move from data gathering around dialogues, many different perspectives across the world from people in all sectors, in all areas of agriculture and food, thinking about food systems, identifying the themes that emerge from their conversations and dialogues, analyzing those, listing them, looking at the connections across them, and then organizing them into a theory of transformation. Our full report, available on the UN Food Systems portal, dialogue portal, will give you the details, the database, the supporting quotations, and dialogues that this theory of transformation is based upon. The evaluation implications are to track how each of these themes is emerging, to work to look at the interconnections across themes and actors and stakeholders, and track trajectories toward food systems transformation. Taken together, this theory of transformation provides a global view of how to bring about major significant change in the directions of reducing and eliminating food hunger, increasing the nutrition of food, and growing food in ways that are sustainable and equitable. And that is a theory of transformation.